Babes Behind the Beats with Jess Bowen and Bowie Jane.
What's up, everyone? It's Jess Bowen with Bowie Jane here on Babes Behind the Beats on Adobe Radio, and we're so excited because today we have Victoria Asher, also known as Vicky T from Cobra Starship.
Hello.
In studio.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. No, it's
LA
my
traffic's
pleasure.
a bitch, but
Yeah.
you made it. You're
Totally
here safe
worth
and sound.
it. Totally worth it.
I'm so happy to have you on the show finally. I feel like you and I have I mean, I know we've probably met in person, but it's one of those things where I just have always known who you are. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Like we come from the same scene, and I've always just looked up to you because let's be real, there were not a lot of women in our genre,
Yeah,
in our
true.
scene, and you were always such a badass, like such a badass. I remember just being like, God damn it, I'd see you play on stage, and you just have such a great energy, and
Thanks.
you're so cool.
Because you're on the guitar, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Guitar.
Yeah,
Yep.
which speaking of which, let's just dive right into it then.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
growing up, so you know, as we know, you've come from a musical family. Your dad is Peter Asher from Peter and Gordon. Your mom is also well known. You've come from this family that's very musical, right?
Yeah.
So did you grow up knowing, I want to be in music because of that? Were you exposed to music then at a young age tell us about that.
Well, funny enough, I was actually the opposite where I'm not going to work in music, even though, not because of anything, uninspiring from my parents. My mom actually was, heavily art world
Yes.
related. And then my father obviously was always music. And I definitely did music on the side. My
Yeah.
mom forced me to take piano lessons, which I hated. And my dad working in the studio all the time, it was really cool to be around creatives and to be around that environment and to go on the road with my dad and things
Wow.
like that. But it just, I was so hyper focused on film. I was like, oh, I want to direct and produce in film. And
You knew
That
that,
was-
at that young of an age that film was more your...
yeah, I was
Wow.
finding myself my parents would come home and I was really young, from parties or things, and I would be up all night watching movies on repeat. I was just obsessed.
Wow, isn't that interesting? Because you
Wow.
studied film, didn't you, at NYU?
I did, yeah.
Wow.
You guys did your research.
Oh yeah. Well, and I like to mention that bit of research I just did. No. But that's pretty fascinating because we know we were looking up. You've directed a lot of videos, and it's pretty interesting how I guess the two worlds do collide a bit, don't they?
Yeah, and the weirdest thing is that I even followed my dad's path in a way because side note though, the one thing, maybe this is a whole other can of worms, but I was just going to say, side note, the thing that's frustrating though is that ending up working in music had nothing to do with my dad. But it's in this typical thing that happens, it's associated. Oh well, she only got the job in the
Yeah.
band because of
that's
her
annoying.
father, because he worked in music. I mean, it followed me later too. Just even when I worked with Britney Spears, it's it's probably because her dad, and then thinking because he used to work at Sony, crazy stuff. Where
That's
it's
annoying.
actually my entire career path has been totally separate from my father.
And also, why
Yeah.
can't someone just be influenced? It's if you grew up in a musical
Yeah.
family, it doesn't mean that it was oh, he helped me do this. It means you
Yeah.
forged your way.
I mean, you might
when
have
you
good musical talent like he did.
Yeah,
Right?
true,
So-
true.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely, there was inspiring things from my father, but as far as this idea of the connections and things that it had to
Yeah.
have come from someone in your family, or especially a female getting in because of a guy,
Right.
things like that. Those are things that are frustrating.
Totally.
But what I was trying to say is that my dad, he left university to go to America. He took a leave of absence because he had a #1 hit single in America.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
massive.
And never returned. And I got asked to join the band because I had a MySpace page that I put music on while I was studying film at NYU. And Gabe saw my page, thought I was cool. I knew the bass player in Cobras through my boyfriend at the time. And so I basically told my parents, well, this band asked me to join, and I'm going to take a leave of absence from college. And my dad was like, well, I can't really say anything to that. That's basically exactly what I did. So,
Yeah.
Wow.
He's like, I can't fight that.
Yeah. So
That's
it's weird
great.
how that became.
So what happened to
Same kind of thing.
film then? You were just taking a break from studying film, I guess.
Yeah, the plan was just to take a break. I was kind of in a freak out moment of what am I doing in my life? I don't know what I'm going to do. And got a phone call from Suarez from Cobras just saying like, hey, Gabe came across your MySpace page and thought I'd hit you up. Do you want to like
Wow.
join a band and go on tour for a month or so? And I was like, yeah, I'll do that for like 2 months. And
Right.
became 10 years of my life. So.
Yeah. Well, because so with that being said, I mean, you guys had so many massive hits. Was it just a
Massive.
thing like you were like, I'll just join it for a little bit and then go back to school? Like you didn't expect it to blow up the way it did?
Yeah, definitely did not. I
Wow.
mean, we were very fortunate that like when I joined, we were like immediately on a tour bus. We did not do the grueling van hustle or any of that.
Lucky.
But I granted I didn't make any money for that first year. You know,
Right.
I survived off of per diems and food from the venues.
Totally.
Because we wanted to have a bus. We were like,
Wanted to be comfortable.
We're gonna
like,
choose comfort over
Exactly.
making money.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was just immediately so fun. The whole scene. I mean, it was a totally separate scene from what I liked music wise growing up.
That's what I was going to ask
Yeah.
because I was going to say, like, what did you like, growing up, the music that you enjoyed and stuff? Because the scene that both of us are in is a totally different scene than,
Totally different.
like, I think what I even grew up listening to
Yeah.
originally, you know?
I was very definitely like indie snob, you know. I mean, I always loved music, but more almost like in a kind of A&R type way. Like I was always like discovering new bands and finding them before people knew who they were because I was so cool. And and so I was always like showing my dad new bands. Like I remember like before Modest Mouse were known at all, I was psychotically obsessed with Modest Mouse. And I showed it to my dad and all this stuff, and it wasn't really for him. But then afterwards, when they became huge, he was like, I wish I had listened to you about Modest Mouse. I could have signed them or, you know, managed them or whatever.
Right.
But, yeah.
So when did, because you had a massive hit. I mean, you've had a
few.
few, but
Yeah.
like that, and they're pop. Like
Yeah.
they're still cool though.
Yeah.
You know, like really. So how did that kind of success come about?
Well, so the first record was done entirely by Gabe with friends and stuff. And then he was like, oh, I'm going to form this into a proper band. And so then we did the other albums on the road. And yeah, I mean, I guess the first big one was Good Girls, right? Yeah, that came
I was going to
before.
say, was Good Girls the first
Yeah.
real massive
Mhm.
one? Yeah.
Are we signed at this point, or you?
Yeah. So when I joined and like the rest of the guys, Gabe already was signed.
Right.
So it was just from there. It was like making other albums and
Yeah.
And you
putting
were
stuff out.
signed to Decadence first, which was, right? Is that?
Yes,
I-
I think
It was like Fueled by.
Gabe's
Essentially Fueled by, right? I think.
I guess.
Okay,
I
yeah.
get
It
confused
said-
on like Fueled by Decadence.
So it's, I
It
think,
said
Fueled
that on the
by-
wiki.
well, because Decadence, I think, was the imprint of Fueled by, right? It was like Pete Wentz's
Yeah.
imprint, I think.
Yeah.
I think
Gabe would know that.
Gabe would know.
That's-
Yeah, I know. I'm bad with that stuff too. I was like, I don't know. I know that this label
I'm
existed,
like,
but
I just joined not knowing if I'd make a single dollar.
yeah, you're like,
and
I love it.
down for the experience.
I love that. I love that so much. And
And
you
both-
also did. Sorry,
No.
you like directed a lot of the music videos.
Yeah, so I did some of our music videos. I wish I could have done more with more budget, but I did like more of our kind of home video type ones that did not have budget.
That's still sick.
It was very fun and did like a lot of like on the road tour diary stuff.
Oh,
and
cool.
like and we did these Cobra cams, which I don't know if you've seen those. But
I
we did
remember
a lot of
that-
sketches and
yeah,
things like that.
I remember that.
Yeah, with
Wow.
our friend Jack, who was on the road with us, and just like being able to collaborate and to make video content and stuff was really key for me as well because film
That was what you
very
were
much what I wanted
studying,
to do.
right? Yeah, that was like when you
Yeah.
left, you were like doing the film thing. So
Yeah.
to be able to incorporate that into then your music life is like the best of both worlds. You're out there living your dream, and now it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I could still do this other passion that I was going to school for,
Totally.
which is so sick.
And
Yeah.
the guitar's an interest. Like that's an unusual sort of thing to be an instrument to be playing. Was
Yeah.
it just because you could play both, or like how did you go down that path?
I just always played piano,
Right, of course.
and
yeah.
I had not touched keys really in years when I got asked to join, and I literally was like blew off the dust and started playing the songs like crazy before I auditioned to be in the band. So
Oh, okay. So you just
but from there it was just kind of like going from the regular piano position to like angling.
Yeah,
it.
really
So
hard.
Wait, but like, did you decide that's what you wanted to do instead of just playing keys?
no, it was actually Gabe.
It was like we want a
And-
guitarist.
yes.
Like, okay.
And funny enough, I was actually quite against it. Kidding.
Oh.
I was like, how would I make a keytar look cool? Like keytar, I don't
Yeah,
know
you're like,
about that.
oh.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know that that's gonna be cool at all. And then I
You pulled it
I
off.
eventually embraced it. But I remember I was like telling friends, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play keys in this band. I was like,
You didn't want to say
guitar.
guitar.
That's funny.
Because to go back to bands and stuff that I like too, by the way, like the Rentals were like one of my favorite bands ever, and that was the first time that like made synths cool to me. Like I was like, oh, you can totally play like amazing synth stuff, and it's cool. Because for some reason in my head I had that like, oh, if you have piano, like I don't know, you can't do that. I don't know why I thought that way, but the Rentals was like the first thing that sparked me, and they were like cool little indie girls that were playing keys and violin, and with Matt Sharp from Weezer. I don't know how
Oh,
deep you
yeah.
guys go
Yeah,
into stuff,
yeah.
but I was a huge Weezer nerd, so
Yeah.
so I think I was just like, I just pictured I'd be like in the cute little mod dresses playing cool old vintage synths instead.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
But then I embraced the guitar.
Yeah, he's like, I think you should play the guitar. You're like, fuck.
Yeah.
And you killed it. I gotta say. Again, it was.
I think it's cool.
It's so sick. And again, just like going back to I never saw women on stage in our scene. Like
Yeah.
I grew up in our scene, like once I started in a band, and it was just like, there's never women on stage. And it was so cool to see you on stage. Also like just a badass playing guitar and doing the background vocal, like everything about you, like your presence and everything was so great. And I don't know, like, I guess I just wonder, did you feel any sort of like way about being one of the only females like on the road with like your band, being the only girl in the band, also
Yeah.
like, and again in our scene not having a lot of women around? I know times have changed and there's it still isn't great, there's not a ton of women doing it, but there's more. But
Yeah.
like, were there was it challenges with being the only female?
For sure. And it's
Yeah.
funny because when I joined, I didn't think anything of it.
Of course, you're like
I,
one of
like-
the guys, right? Was that kind
Yeah.
of how you felt? Like I had to be one of the dudes?
Yes. And I
Yeah.
had guy friends my whole life. Like I was always kind of a tomboy. So it just made sense to me.
Right.
Like if it had been joining a band with all girls, I probably would have lost my mind. To be
Yeah.
honest. But, so I didn't think anything of it. But then once I was in it, it was very quickly apparent, like, whoa, this is like such a big deal. Like every single interview, they'd ask the guys everything. And they'd have one question for me, and the only question was, "What's it like being the only girl in a band?"
Yep.
Really?
And I
Yes,
was so annoyed by
100%.
it, and
And
I would
you've
just,
said that too.
Yeah.
Every single
Yeah.
question was
Yeah.
that.
and I'd just go, "It's great."
Yeah.
And then
Because
the
what else
guys
are you
would like
supposed to
make
say?
fun of me because like they're like, "Oh, good answer," and it's like, "Well, what am I gonna say? Like, what? Like, it's fine for me. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter." And then it became just clear that it was like, everyone gossips on tour and stuff, and it's like if I was hanging with everyone, I was the slut.
Right.
If I was not hanging with anyone, I was the bitch.
You're the bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was
So
like
true.
figuring out that balance of like, well, what? But then actually throwing away caring about any balance and doing my thing and
Yeah.
like
Totally.
getting criticized for like riding. I remember I rode on Travis Barker's bus all the time, and it was great. I was like in these like really sweet tour buses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had an amazing bunk bed. Never had anything slightly romantic with him.
Yeah.
And of course, everyone. Oh, am I allowed to swear on this?
Of
Yeah.
course.
She's having sex with him. And it was totally untrue. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't care what they say because I'm having a blast on tour. Think whatever you want.
And if
you
it was
know?
a guy
Yeah.
that became friends with Travis that was in another band that slept
Yeah.
on his bus, wouldn't
Yeah.
even be a question,
No.
right? But because it's like, oh, how did she get on his bus and what are they doing? It's always
Yeah.
like, and like you said, it was the pressure for me, at least speaking of my experience, it felt like, I felt like I had to be able to hang enough with the dudes. I had to prove myself that like, well, I could outdrink you. It
Yeah.
became that
Yeah.
type of thing too, of
Yeah.
like, no, I can hang.
Yeah.
Like, watch me
Yeah, I'm
outdrink
one of the
you.
boys,
I'm one of the
yeah.
dudes. Like, I'm one of the
Yeah.
guys. But like you said at first, it's like you don't think of it. It's more of like an in hindsight type of thing where
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I didn't see the things that maybe now I can look back and be like, oh, maybe those were kind of the signs that I should have realized were not healthy, being the only
Yeah.
female in the band. But at the time I was just like, yeah.
Oh
can
yeah, I
hang.
mean, there's plenty of messed up stuff. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that's a whole
And
other
it's
podcast
like
we could have.
Yeah, like later you're just like, wow, like that's crazy that was okay. Like
Totally. I get
luckily
it.
not. I mean, I really got to say, my band, they were not the creeps cheating on their girlfriends. They were not the jerks like having, God knows what, like orgies on the road.
That's great.
They were all in long-term relationships, and they were like, they were well behaved in that sense.
Yeah.
They were crazy and would get drunk and whatever, but it was like
There's no cheating, no
No.
hooking up with like bringing girls back to the bus and
No.
stuff like that. Yeah,
no.
that's
there
great.
were plenty of girls that would come on the bus and be very aggressive towards them.
Yes.
Which is also the not spoken about side, because there are a lot of crazy fans that will do anything they can
100%.
to try and sleep with a dude in a band.
Yes.
Wow.
We've seen that.
And it's always talked the other side of, the band dudes are the creeps. Like, not always.
Yeah.
There are creepy girls out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've seen it too. I
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
I also wanted to talk about one other thing, which I truly love. Actually, I never have gotten to talk to you about this. So Orange is the New Black. You helped create, was it the title sequence for it?
Yeah.
So like what I'm seeing on Netflix, like when I watched the intro of it, you created this.
Yes. So
That is so sick. Everyone who's listening, if you haven't seen Orange is the New Black,
That's
which most of you probably
insane.
have, it's so sick. And that
Thank
title
you.
sequence is amazing.
Yeah.
How did that?
Thank you.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was me and this director Thomas Cobb. So we collaborated on everything, and we did all these main title sequences, and we did Orange is the New Black was one of them, and it was all like incarcerated women. And so we asked in every take that we took of all these different women of like, remember the moment that you knew you were going to jail, like remember being in jail, remember the moment you got out, like things like that, to like capture that emotion. And then it was just a matter of like editing them together and using both stills, and then they come to life as video. The one shot that we did forget to get were hands in handcuffs, which mine are the hands in handcuffs.
Oh my gosh, really?
That's funny.
But it was great. We did it in downtown LA with like that place, what are they called? Homeboy or something? What's it called? It's like they hire people that have gotten out of jail.
Oh, cool.
Oh.
Homeboy Industries, I think they're called.
Interesting. Okay.
So it was cool because we got to shoot there as well. So.
Did you already have so when they give you something like that and say like make us the title track, do they give you the song that it's going to, or do they just say this is the vision? Like how does that?
They gave us the song.
So you know the song.
Yes. And the original idea was completely different. We tried several different ideas and like pitched different ones. I kind of still like the original one. It was quite cool.
Oh, really? I want to see this original.
Yeah. We only have the deck for it, but the shoot was it was amazing. It was very emotional, like seeing these women that had been through so much. And
Wow.
So
It
was
was really
this
cool.
a pitch situation then?
Yeah.
Like, and so you basically competition, for those who might not know, everyone's pitching for the same job and you got it.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
great.
so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Another thing, sorry, I know we're jumping back and forth from
No, it's
things,
fine.
but this podcast unfortunately is not long enough for us to deep dive into every little detail. But
And I have jumped around a lot.
yes,
We've done a lot.
you've done
That's
a
what
lot,
it
which is amazing. So Cobra, you guys are like, would you say officially back together, or is it more of a like because you're playing When We Were Young Fest?
Yes.
Is
So-
there anything you can talk about?
Well, so all I can say is we're definitely doing When We Were Young Festival.
You're definitely doing that. Okay, great. Love that.
Hopefully beyond that.
Yes.
But I think we are only promoting that.
You're only promoting that. Well, and also, like, just recently, last week, I mean, I guess I don't know when this airs, but recently you were on, you just got on stage, you and Gabe went out with Fall Out Boy, as
Yeah.
in, like, in the LA show, you guys surprise guest, like, show up on stage.
Yeah.
How
It was
cool
so
is
much
that?
fun.
I was gonna say, like, I remember seeing the video because I didn't get to go to the show, unfortunately, but I
Yeah.
just saw so many videos popping up. It was like the most viral moment. It was like Cobra
Yeah.
Starship, like on stage with Fall Out
Yeah.
Boy. Like, what a cool feeling!
It was so much fun. Oh my God, I was so stoked because
Yeah.
I I had just gotten back into town Friday from New York. And then Gabe writes me on Saturday being like, how's New York? And I'm like, actually, I just got back. And I was like, I'm looking for a new job. Like, all this stuff. And then he's like, well, I got a job for you Monday. Like, what do you think? Should we go out with Fall Out Boy? I'm like, dude, are you kidding? Like,
Oh my
duh.
I was
God.
so
Of course.
excited. So, yeah, it was
That's so sick. Which song did you guys do?
great. We did Good Girls Go Bad.
You did Good Girls Go
Yeah.
Bad. That's
Wow.
so iconic.
Yeah,
I
it was really fun.
loved that.
And what's happened with COVID for you guys? What was that experience like? Were you not doing music or?
Well, so Cobras, we actually came to an end like 2015,
Right.
2016, something like that. So
So you working
we
on
were
other
not
things?
working on music.
Yeah.
I was at the time like managing songwriters and producers.
Oh,
and,
right.
and then working for Britney Spears all during
Yeah,
COVID era.
what is
Yes.
that?
Tell us about this.
Like, that's
let's
random.
talk about that.
So, I mean, it's crazy because that's, again, another one of these things where people are like, oh, so basically when I started working for Britney, I had no idea the conspiracies that were surrounding that.
Right.
No idea, like completely oblivious. And, but so it wasn't until later when she started posting about me and saying her love for me, which is all very sweet, that I saw the fandom side. And there's the great fandom, the awesome, supportive, wonderful people. And then there's the ones that like buy into these conspiracies. And there were conspiracies of that, like, my dad worked at Sony in like the 90s, right?
Oh.
And it's like, you think that my dad this whole time has been planning out a job for me to work for Britney this
Yeah.
many years? Like,
That's
are you insane? Like,
Yeah.
it's wild, the stuff that I see. Anyway, I literally just responded to a job post. I needed a job, said personal assistant to a household name.
That's
Okay.
it. Oh, my
I applied
gosh.
to it. I first had a Zoom with the first assistant, and they told me then who it was. And I was like, oh, cool. And then I met with Britney, and then I was working for her, and it was great. And
Wow.
I needed a job, and I assisted her, and then we became extremely close friends. And I think too, part of what we bonded on is that we were both women that dealt with, obviously, her to a whole other extent.
Yeah.
But it's like we both dealt with the madness of being in the industry, and I mean, she was so sweet. Where like, I remember this one time when she texted me, she's like, "Oh my God, I just watched all your music videos. You're so cool. I can't believe that you've like done all this stuff." And I'm like, is this really you saying this to me?
Wow.
That's
And
so
like, I was
sweet.
too much of like punk rock chick to like be a Britney fan growing up. I wasn't like not a fan, but I don't
Like you
know
knew who
her
she
music
was, but
very-
wouldn't know the music. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like the hits that were on the radio.
Right.
But like, we just bonded because there was no fandom. It was just
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we just genuinely loved each other. So it was really
Wow. How long
was
did
a
you work
wild-
for her?
fun. Just over a year.
Wow.
And you guys
That's-
still keep in touch and stuff, or you're
Yeah,
still friends.
yeah.
That's so cool. You like
I've made
formed.
myself fully available to her in any ways that she wants. So
Wow, that is so crazy, and we did not know that.
Well,
Yeah.
no, because I will say on the opposite spectrum, I am a huge fan. Like I grew
Yeah.
up. Britney was my like, when I was younger. I mean, I loved the NSYNCs, the Backstreet Boys, but as again like a female pop star, it was like Britney Spears
Yeah.
was the one that I grew up.
for me, it was Gwen Stefani.
Gwen
I like
Stefani.
the
Okay.
alternative
Yeah.
chick. But,
yes,
but you
Yeah.
know, I thought. I mean, I totally had an appreciation for it, but again, like
wasn't
Didn't-
the
no.
fangirl situation.
I mean,
at
it would
all.
have been interesting seeing that side, someone of that level of fame, being on the other side of that and seeing
Yeah.
the workings of everything. I imagine, but
yeah,
yeah. crazy.
Oh, she's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
That's so sick. That's so cool. The things you learn something new every day.
Yep.
Okay, so before we wrap up, there's like some questions. We don't have to do the whole quiz, but there's
Ooh,
just
yeah.
the certain ones that I want to know. So I want to start with one question that we do, and it's very just on the fly. No right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
First one would be dogs or cats.
Dogs.
That is the right answer.
Correct.
100%. I have 3 dogs, so
Oh yeah.
We're dog people here,
Yeah.
obviously.
Whiskey or vodka?
I don't drink.
Okay.
Really,
Tea
so-
or coffee?
Uh,
Tea, because you're British.
coffee.
Oh.
Coffee. Okay.
Well, now tea lately, actually. So maybe I take that back. Now it's tea. I would have told you coffee a year ago.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I'm drinking a lot of tea now.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Perfect.
Okay. This one is kind of the one that's, you can answer it however you want. Like what you would normally put on a rider, and then if you had any sort of budget, like what would you put on the rider? So like what do you, first question is like, what do you normally like to have on the rider?
Fruit. Like
Fruit.
a fruit plate, like in yogurt.
That's
Totally
nice.
into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reese's peanut butter cups.
Ooh, I like that. The health, the balance.
Yeah. Detox to retox.
Yes, you gotta have a balance on there.
Yeah. Ultimate thing to have on there?
Like anything. If you
know.
could be like, I want like a personal masseuse every day. You know what I mean? Anything
That
like
100%.
yeah, I know. I was like, well, I gave you one.
that is amazing. But also, honestly, like a chef. Like, so that,
Yeah.
like you just had like whatever you were craving that day.
A
Because I
personal
like
chef.
just crave food all the time. I always said, I'm like, if I ever become really rich, I don't need the big house. I don't need the fancy stuff. I just want a personal chef.
Yeah, and it can all be healthy then.
Yeah.
Not
Or
too
So
much
you
not.
know
effort.
exactly what you want. Yeah, exactly.
You could literally one day be like, I just actually do want junk food. Make me like a burger and fries or whatever. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
Oh, that's a
good.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had some random stuff. I've put dogs on the rider, and it actually sometimes works. I don't know if you guys have ever done this before, where like you go to a venue, and if you do have dogs on the rider, like someone that works at the venue will
Brings
just
their
bring
dog.
a dog.
Amazing.
And so then you're like, it works. And also you looked at the rider. Thank God.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So anyways, I feel bad. It's coming to an end. We have so much that I feel like we could do like a part 2 with you because you
Yeah.
have done so much. But for everyone who's listening who might not already be following you, do you want to give like the most active socials that you're on and just say like your ats?
Yeah.
And all that?
I'm definitely most active on Instagram, unfortunately.
Same.
At Vicky T, VICKYT.
Perfect. No TikTok or anything?
I
Do
don't
you
really
do
updated them. I think my TikTok is Dear Vicky T. maybe.
Okay.
I don't remember.
I haven't
what
really-
my thing
Well, you're not on it then much.
I'm really not on it much. No.
To be fair, I can't. I'm still trying to grasp how to really use it in the sense
Yeah.
of like, what do people care about seeing on this?
Also, my algorithm keeps getting messed up.
Oh,
like,
I
and it
know.
always knows, like, because I dealt with like a terrible breakup last year. So it was like, it knew when I was broken up. And so it was just all like unsolicited breakup advice that I
Oh,
didn't care to
no.
hear. And now I'm in a new relationship. And now it's all like, how to keep him interested. And I'm like, why?
Oh,
I don't want to see
wow.
this. And I keep pressing not interested, not interested.
Yeah.
Oh my
But I don't know how
God.
to like get it to actually show me stuff that I want to see. So
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Oh my God. Well,
it's
good luck
always
on that.
listening to you.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it
so
is.
true. It
Yeah.
is so true. Well, thank you so much for being here, Vicky.
Of
We
course,
appreciate it.
thank
And
you. It
can't
was
wait
so
to
great
see
to
you.
meet you.
Yes.
And see you.
See you
and,
finally
yeah.
again. And
Yeah.
everyone, check out, all your stuff. And also, you'll be at When We Were Young Fest.
Hell yeah.
And just keep an eye out for anything else that's happening because I would, fingers crossed, I'm hoping for some more.
Me too. Me too. I've been waiting
Yeah.
for this for so long.
Yes.
Like anyone that followed me on socials like knows that I was going hard on like bring
Listen,
this for you.
Cobra is one of those
Yeah.
bands that just needs to, like, especially with this revival of our music, you guys needed to be back.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for you not to be back.
100%.
You guys are like one of the biggest bands in this genre. Are you kidding me? Insane. Insane that you're not back. Let's go talk to Gabe about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, thank you so much, Vicky.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.